Hello and welcome to Getting Started with Masks in After Effects. So there's two ways that we could draw a mask initially. One is in the composition panel and one is in the layer panel. So press the Q key, it's going to select the rectangle tool and we draw a mask, and you can see we've chosen our subject there. And if you take a look at the alpha channel here, you can see 0, 0, 0, 100. So that's essentially what the mask is doing. We can also draw the mask here in the layer panel. Now if we take a look at some of the options in the layer panel, you can see we have this button here called render. I'm just going to turn that off for a second just to see the difference here. So you see this way we could draw the mask. Let's just remove that mask. Another way to remove the mask is we go to layer, mask, remove all masks. You could also access that menu by right clicking here and we can go there. Again, we could do remove all masks, or if we have the mask selected here, so we'll draw our mask again here. We can also click on any of the points in the comp panel here and you also get access to that menu. So when you draw the mask, we can use the arrow keys to position it slightly differently. We can also hold down shift and we can go by large increments around. If you want to look at our mask, we can press the M key once and then twice, and then that will give you all the information that you need there. Okay, let's also look in a little bit more detail with regards to the actual shape of the mask. So when we're dragging here with the rectangle here, you can see I'm drawing a rectangle. If I hold down shift now, it's going to constrain it to a square. Let's go back to the rounded rectangle. Now you can see I'm drawing this. Now let's see what happens if I press the arrow keys. You see when I press up, I'm actually changing the corner roundness. So I can change the corner round, I can hold it down and you can see just how round it can get. We can also press left and right, and that's going to toggle between the ellipse. So when creating a polygon, what we can actually do is we can press the arrow key. So up and down is actually going to increase the number of sides. So we can get more sides, and then left and right is going to change the rounding. So you see we can turn it into a circle with more points. So you could create something like this. You can go beyond, more sides. So you could do some interesting stuff with that. Now one thing you'll notice, if I then delete this mask, when I then draw it again, it's going to start with that already. So the way to get rid of that is just to double click. It will just put the default and then you've reset the tool. So again, we'll draw a polygon. If we want it to have 3 sides, just press down like that. And then we can use the arrow keys to create a pleasant kind of shape, which is sort of like a bulbous triangle. So you can see this is the star shape you tend to get. If we wanted to increase the number of sides, we can press the up key. You can see we can get more sides. We can go down. Or obviously triangle as well is available there. So you can create a triangle in both that. The advantage with doing triangle is that we can again do the left and right with the roundness. So if we're trying to create like a petal shape maybe, you also have access to the inner roundness as well using page up and page down. So you see, let's just maybe try and do that a little bit less, try and get a more interesting shape. So you get like a shape like that. You get all the way if you wanted to. And great, you know, just like something like that. So yeah, so that's essentially all you need to know with regards to the different shapes you can do. And you can do a 4-leaf clover actually if you just make it 4 and then just press the right arrow. So once you've made your mask, whatever it may be, you're probably going to want to free transform it, which is sort of the next step. And there's a couple of ways to actually get into that menu. One is you could just press this and then press Control T. That will open it up. And then you can press Escape to get out. You can also double click on one of the points. I changed the size of the points to make them bigger. You can also do like Shift and F2 like you would before to deselect that. So when going to free transform mode, there's different ways you can do it. For instance, if I click on this line here, I'm only going to select the 2 points here, right? So if I then go into free transform mode with Control T, you can see only the 2 points are selected. So if I want to do any effects here, it's only going to affect those 2 points, right? Now when we actually go into the mask, press Control T, you'll notice there's actually another registration point. It's like a mini anchor point. And you can see, for instance, if I rotate, you can see it's just going to rotate around the anchor point. If we take this anchor point, you notice we get a 4-headed arrow, and we move it over here, and we go for rotate. You can see I'm then rotating around that section there. Now if I deselect, so if I rotate and then deselect and then go back in, you'll see that it's actually returned back. So it's only just a temporary thing. If I do a scaling here, so it's going to scale like that. But if we move it here, you can see only when I press Control is when it starts to do the scaling around that point. So if it was actually a lot smaller, I moved it here. See, I can actually choose where I want to put it. I could put it in a different section here. I could choose, essentially, you can imagine like an XY axis. And that is an advantage to putting it like that. If you just get the shape of it first and position it. We select the layer. Now that means that when we draw a shape, we're going to get a mask, right? So for instance, if I draw the shape around the person here, we can get that mask. Now if we press MM on the mask, we're going to get 4 values. We're going to get feather. We'll obviously get the path, which we've seen, feather, opacity, expansion. So feather essentially will create different sort of alpha variations on the inside and the outside of the mask. And then we can expand that by doing, so for instance, if I do a little feather, this is quite a large image, so you can see the feather there. And then what it means is I can then expand and get a bit further. Or we could do down and get less, right? But it will keep the same feathering. So that's like a way to sort of select that. Now the thing about opacity as well is interesting. So let's remove this mask quickly. And what I would like to do is just get like a couple of different masks so we can see how to use multiple masks at the same time. So we'll just take one of that, take one of the face, and remember we can click on that one, and then Control and T, and then we could maybe just go and just do, we could shift a little bit. So you can see we have 3 masks now. So if I press TT, you can see we're going to get the opacity values for each of them. So what I could do, for instance, I could do like something like a 0 here. Then we could marquee select, copy those points, and then do a copy paste down here, right? So obviously that is useful to do something like that, and it means that you could potentially also put in a bunch of effects if you wanted to as well. So that just means you can have a bunch of different things. If they were, so you can imagine each of these different masks, they could be letters and text, they could be anything, right? You can also apply layer styles. So for instance, if I did a layer style, outer glow, you can see that's going to brighten it up a bit. So you could apply whatever layer style you want to that. And yeah, you can also put effects in as well. So with Spotlight, for instance, this could be an interesting one to use here. So we could start with we'll start the cone angle here, and then we'll just make it take up the whole amount of space. This is just one particular example, that's enough, right? So yeah, you'd probably want to time remap the whole thing here. Could actually look at the expansion as well, maybe. Could sort of synergize it with the opacity. I'm not sure if there's any real value to doing that. We could try it there. Maybe just give it a little boost. It's sort of like different, like so what I could do is I could just take these values, copy. I'm not really sure exactly. This is kind of a little bit off track here, but we'll do that other one a bit later, right? So you can see you could start to get like a slightly different effect, but yeah. So I want to look now at the pen tool. So we're going to do masks, but we're going to use the pen tool. And so let's look how we might want to do this B, for instance. So we could start here, we just click once and then click again to get a straight line section. So we look at what we've got here. We might want to go here, here, and here. So let's think about doing that. So we'll go here, and here, there, there, and here. If we want to close this path, we could do a layer, mask and shape path, and then just put closed. And then that will close the path. Okay, now obviously we might want to just adapt it a little bit, maybe get a little bit more extra out of it. So what we could do is, these are all straight line paths at the moment. So if I click here, I just alt click, you see when I press hold down alt, it changes to that. What that is, it's basically the other mode, which is the convert vertex tool. So you see when I'm going to drag, and you see now I've got this little shape. So I could, just do a small adjustment on it. So there's other things that you could potentially do as well. You see here, I can create an extra vertex there if I wanted to. Want to get rid of it? Just can hold down Control, and it's gone. Yeah, I think the key thing with a shape like this is, if you can see, we've got our horizontal here, and having this close to vertical as well is kind of useful. All right, let's try an X then. So we're going to do Mars shape. We're going to do a rotor bezier on this one. So we're just going to click the points as if we're doing straight line curves. But you'll notice we do get a curve to it. So we'll just click on it, essentially on every vertex. So that gives you a pretty good. So for a shape like an X, like it didn't work so well with the B. So for a shape like an X, that is pretty handy to do that. Now what we might want to do is just, you'll notice that when we press Alt, when we've got rotor bezier, you get a few different options. We can hold down Alt here, and I can actually sort of almost like drill, get that in a bit more. Kind of works pretty well, actually. Yeah, you can change it to always do rotor bezier if you create new masks here. You actually get like an interesting effect, don't you? The way that appears. That's actually kind of cool. We'll go to effects. And I think evolution is where we want to be. Yeah, it's kind of cool how the, I think it actually works, what I'm trying to do here. So we're going to draw a couple of masks, and we're going to take a look, see what that does. So we'll draw a mask here, and we'll do an intersection with, say, a rounded rectangle mask. So here is our rounded rectangle mask. You see I'm overlapping them. So normally the masks will be on add mode. This is the masking mode. And the reason for that is just to be constantly adding to it. And it works sort of top down. So the first mask is sort of the most important one, and then the second is the second most important, and so on. So for instance, if I change this mode here to subtract, we can see it's going to subtract all of the second mask, leaving only what is outside of that second mask's range. If we go to intersect, we can see we're just going to get the intersection of those. And then we also have difference. So difference will be the opposite of intersect. Let's take a look now. Let's try and draw maybe a third mask as well, just to take a look at that one. So draw a third mask underneath. And you see it's going to add everything. But if we do subtract, it will subtract the whole lot. Intersect, you can see it's going to intersect, because we've got the difference on the second one. It's going to, wherever it intersects with the mask above it, it's going to have a point there. So okay, so we go back and also look at the difference. If we then do a intersect here, you see it's going to keep an eye on that piece there. With three masks here, we've got add on the top, difference on the second to get the opposite of the intersection. The difference could be seen as the union of 1 and 2 minus the intersection. And then if we do this, say we do subtract, it'll be minus the intersection, and then minus the intersection between 1 and 3 and 2 and 3. Let's make a mask, and we're going to make the mask a rectangle. So we'll draw our rectangle out, and we'll look in here. We can do a mask path. Now, say I wanted to move it somewhere else, I could, for instance, I could copy this keyframe, paste it in there, and then say move it across. So that's one way that we could just move it across, do something like that. But there are some more interesting things you can do than just that. So I wanted this shape to turn into a star. If I said, well, I'm at this spot here, I'm going to want it to be a star, you'll notice it immediately creates a second mask, which is not what you want to happen. That's where you use the mask targeting feature. Because what I can do is I can target the mask 1. And assuming that as you recall, you always need to increase the number of vertex points. Not a problem if you're going from a square to a star. I can just draw my star there. And now it creates it on the same mask. So you can see I've created an animation that's just going like that. So we'll start with a solid layer. Put that in here. And we have this shape, this picture here. I'll just quickly show you what it looks like. And what we want to do is we just want to create a mask path and then convert it into a motion path. So this object is going to go around the path. So let's have a look at how we might do that. Well, all we can do is we'll choose our ellipse tool. You can choose any tool at all. And we're going to make sure we've got our solid selected. And we're going to draw our shape out. So it can be any shape. We'll just make it a circle for now. And all we have to do is you go to the mask path here, Control C, go to our picture here, and make sure you can just press P here, the position, and paste. And that is it. So it's very, very simple, and you see it goes around the motion path. Now, a couple of things to talk about here. So one of the things we could do is we could go to the layer, we could go to transform, and we could go auto orient. It's going to orient along the path. So now it goes along the path. And for this one, we're going to want to have a little rotation. So we'll try a rotation of 90 degrees. So you see now it's following around the path. We could select all the points here. We could do keyframe assistant. We could do keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes. It will now go in a clockwise direction. Now, one of the interesting things that we could do as well is you can see that it is sort of like only half of the thing is on there. So what we might want to do is we might want to go back into our mask here and we can expand the mask. So we'll select our mask here and we expand the mask just so we can see the outside. It's going to be pretty close to the bottom of the thing here, but so for instance that, and then we can select the mask path, copy it, go back into the position and paste that one in. Then you've got the same effect there. So what you could also do as well is these are called roving keyframes. So what it means is that depending on how long I want the animation to last, I simply have to drag this last one and all the others will adjust. So the great thing about this is not only can you do it with any shape, you can do it with any path. So this is a closed path because it's a circle, so there's no openings in the path. But there's no reason at all that we couldn't do something completely different. So for instance, say we have this, say we wanted to do a line path. So say this shape, for whatever reason, we want it to come in from here, go around here, up here, and up here. Exactly the same process, right? So you'll simply go to the mask path, copy it, and then in position we can just copy and paste that. Very, very simple. See, we're going to write a letter S, for instance, and we need to convert that to a mask path. So we take this letter S, and we go to the layer, and we're going to go to create mask from text. That's going to create S outlines, so we can delete that. And now we have our mask path. All right, so we may want to rotate the mask. So for instance, we could do the mask path here, and then we can rotate it, Control T, or you can double click as well. And we'll just go round and round and round, and then shift when we get near. And that's going to do, and you can see what happens. Essentially, it's trying to draw the line directly, so it doesn't actually interpolate correctly. So what we can do then is we can look at the settings that we get. So you can see if we use linear vertex paths, what this actually means is it's trying to draw a point directly from one point to the other. So because the quickest way to do it is to draw like this point to this point, it's kind of like, that's why it has to go tiny, basically. So if you just disable that and then press apply on this, so if you just disable it and then press apply, you can see you're going to get a different shape. But you can see it's sort of bouncing around now. So that also isn't what you want. So what you need to do then is you need to actually look at your first vertex point. So the first vertex point is this one over here. So generally you want to have one in the middle. So what we'll do is we'll just change the first vertex point to be somewhere like that. So then we'll put layer and then first marks, and then we'll do set first vertex right in the middle there. Okay, so what that means, right, is that it will rotate better when we do the this. So then we can do this.